Welcome back. Well, today is Tell the Truth Day. And it's, should we always tell the truth? That was my question to you. Do you think we should always tell the truth? I was talking about how the Welsh government has committed to making lying in politics illegal. The Labour administration says globally pioneering legislation will be brought in before the next Senedd elections in 2026. What do you think? There's the number on the screen. Should you always tell the truth, or is it okay to tell a white lie if you want to, save somebody's feelings or create harmony? There's the number on the screen. Talk to Trisha. Talk to me. 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk to 87222 or X at Talk TV. I'm going to be asking, as I said before, I'm going to be asking our faith panel that question. And joining me today, Rabbi Jeremy Lawrence. Welcome back to the show. We love Rabbi Jeremy Lawrence. He's a Jewish educator and faith consultant. And Marie Fahy of Catholic Voices, another friendly face on the show. Rabbi, I'm going to start with you. Tell the Truth Day. Is it ever okay to tell a lie, even if it's a white lie, to save somebody's feelings or to promote peace and harmony? Through the eyes of your faith, what's your answer?
So, the Bible says, "Midavar sheket yachak," you should distance yourself from falsehood. And that's aside from the commandment in the Ten Commandments that it's important not to bear false testimony. We should distance ourselves from falsehood. And I think that the language white lie is something that enables us to euphemistically imagine that something is all right. We tell ourselves it's a white lie, and lying if it's white is all right. And let's not get into the racist connotations of that. but the Talmud amplifies a couple of circumstances where, dare I say it, telling something that is an untruth might be acceptable. And these, Trish, you're looking concerned as I say that. So let me just clarify those issues, because it's really important. Number one, and we're told that Aaron, Moses' brother, the high priest, used to bend the truth a little to bring parties together towards peace. He would say to party A, party B really wants to come before you, but they're a little bit embarrassed and a little bit ashamed. And so for the purposes of massaging diplomacy and the greater good, it's all right to be diplomatic with the truth and economical with it. Secondly, in order to prevent harm, in the event that you need to enable somebody to take shelter, he went that away, it might be appropriate to direct someone into, or to protect someone, and concealing identities. And finally, for modesty and humility, when somebody's just bought a new car or wants to show their new fiancé off, if you were to say, I saw that car on sale in £20,000 cheaper, or, in the kind of cars that I'm buying, possibly, £50 cheaper. If you were to say that, or what an old banger that is, didn't you see the review? And I'm talking about the fiancé here. What an old banger that is, didn't you see the review? If you were to say that when the person's already committed and they are now going to feel absolutely dreadful or foolish because of something they've done, then it is permissible to say, the most beautiful thing ever. I wish you well to wear it. Enjoy. Have a great time together. And certainly not to express your own true feelings and leave the person feeling distraught.
Yeah, that's very different from telling a massive whopper for your own personal gain or reasons, isn't it? Let me ask Marie Fahy from Catholic Voices. Through the eyes of your faith, what do you think, Marie?
Well, I think Jesus said the truth sets you free, and I think that's a really good rule to live by. So as Catholics, as Christians, we really try to embody that. And we all know the pain of being lied to, especially if it's something big, someone who we really love has let us down. that level of deception is so awful and hurtful. So the whole thing about the truth setting us free and living by that truth, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, he said. And a life of truth is where we want to be. And we really want to make sure that in our society, that law that they're talking about in Wales, you know, any law that holds people to account or encourages people to be truthful, it's got to be a good thing, as long as it isn't used in you know, incorrect ways to promote ideologies or different things like that. However, you know, like we were just saying there, you know, if you are in the Second World War sheltering a Jew and, you know, someone comes and says, are you sheltering a Jew? In the interest of justice, and it has to be justice and not for your own personal gain in that case, that it is okay then to tell what isn't really a lie. It's like saying, what's the difference between, you know, killing and murder? There's a difference there. So it might be an untruth, but it's not a lie in terms to deceive, and it's not a lie in a way that I want to gain something for myself, which is always a bad thing, I think, if I'm just using a lie. And that's destructive. Satan is called the father of lies. And there's a reason, because it separates us from ourselves. It separates us from what we truly think. It separates us from other people. And that's why in the church we have all this beautiful teaching about how we examine our conscience and even see how sometimes we lie to ourselves and we don't even know we're doing it. And the more we do it, the easier it is to do. So that's why we have this whole beautiful spirituality around reflecting on the ways in which we can be kind of, you know, delusional towards ourselves. So we have to be brought back into what is truth, the way, the truth, and the life. And the way we do that is by not lying and by following that teaching as much as we can.
Thank you. We're going to take a break. After the break, we're going to move on to a different subject, politics. Welcome back. I just want to say to Les in Birmingham and Paul in Staffordshire, great phone calls. I'm going to take those in about half an hour. And if you want to call in, and we were talking about whether it's ever okay to lie, or you can talk about anything, really. But I'm interested in what you think about this Welsh government committing to making lying in politics illegal. I mean, will we have any politicians left? 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk to 87222. You can X at Talk TV. Let me know what you think. I'm with our faith panel today, Rabbi Jeremy Lawrence, Jewish educator and faith consultant, and Marie Fahy of Catholic Voices. Rabbi, to you for my next question. Through the eyes and the teachings of your faith, what are some of the things that Sir Keir Starmer's new Labour government could do to make life better for us, both socially and spiritually?
Thank you, Trisha. So within the Bible, many, many times, it talks about addressing the needs of the stranger, the widow, and the orphan, and making sure that they are not disadvantaged, and often harks back to the fact that we, the Jewish people, knew what it was to be strangers in the land of Egypt. So it talks about life experience and where we come from as well. And the Talmudic responsibilities for those people and disadvantaged people in society are always to create opportunities and to create educational chance and partnerships so that vulnerable people have the opportunity to advance within society and to grow and to belong, so that everybody feels equally a part and equally valuable. The Talmud teaches that everybody is supposed to be charitable, and even the poorest of the poor is supposed to be able to give back towards society. And I think that's a very important message. People need to be respected and need to be helped, but everybody ought to feel sufficiently respectable that they are not just a taker within society. They feel that their contribution can be made and should be made within society. And there's a profound spiritual message within that. So I think that the opportunities for growth should be there. Just last week, I was in a wonderful symposium in Cambridge hosted by the Wolf Institute. and it was an interfaith gathering. So it was predominantly Jewish, Muslim, and Christian participants and religious leaders. And it's amazing how we are able to sit down together and discuss. And the topics that we were discussing together were the environment and our spiritual responsibilities and mandate towards that, and green spaces, sustainable development, biodiversity. I think commitments to that are very significant. The second topic that we addressed was immigration. And when I talk about the stranger in society, it's important that when people come to our communities, they are no longer seen as strangers. They have to be integrated so that the other, if I can use the expression, becomes our brother or our sister. They are equally part of our community, and they shouldn't see themselves as strangers either. So ramping down the politics and the language of discord and dissonance that we have at the moment. It's worrying that we're talking about religious voting blocks, national voting blocks within the society, within the community. And if we just look across the channel to France, we can see how poisonous some of that rhetoric can be, though we could look at some of the rhetoric that we've had at home as well. And so, as well as the environment and immigration, the third aspect, the third idea we were talking about in Cambridge this week was hate speech. And really, it is important that the language that we use when referring to people, and whether it is people from different backgrounds and different countries, or even if it's our political partners and people just across the table, we stop using pejorative language, and we stop using hate speech as a dog whistle to separate and to create identity politics. We need to respect each individual as they are. And that cuts across the gender disputes and the national disputes. It's really important that the language that we use, whatever we feel, is the language of respect. And I think those are not just social ideas, but they are profoundly spiritual ideas that I would encourage our new government to look towards.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for that. Marie, what are your thoughts? Again, the question is, through the eyes and teachings of your faith, what are some of the things Sir Keir Starmer's new Labour government could do to make life better for us, both socially and spiritually, Marie?
Well, I'd love to see him look at, and his government look at family, look at community, and look at the ways that the most isolated in our communities can be supported. I think for a minute, my parents, for example, are both very elderly and very ill. And my dad was in hospital over Christmas. But the broader point is that in some ways, they feel a bit like they're not really part of society anymore because they can't use mobile phones, they can't use internet technology. They just have to rely on us. And I just think, golly, imagine those people who are in my parents' position who don't have daughters or sons or grandchildren. And I think, gosh, there must be thousands of them in this country. So those are the kind of issues I think.
I was going to say, Marie, Marie, within the Bible, covering the Bible, what speaks to what you're talking about? What speaks to these issues?
Well, I think Jesus said that, what we are judged on or what we are supposed to do is to love our neighbours as ourselves. And he goes through a big list of people. Did you feed the hungry, clothe the naked? Did you welcome the stranger? Did you visit those who were in prison? So it's always the most vulnerable, the most marginalized. They're the people who often have no voice at all. So we need to be the voice for them. And so as a Catholic, I believe that poverty, children going to school, being hungry, all of the issues that relate to individuals and pushing people further away. So, the downfall of our high streets, even things like not having post offices, those things where people are feeling on the outside even more. I think what we need to be doing is building big communities, supporting families, looking after, giving parents the right to choose to educate their children how they want to, taking that, not like putting that really onto the state. That's more to do with the family, respecting, as was said earlier, the differences in society, and trying to bring together those things in a way that support those who are vulnerable. I mean, a lady I used to work with, she had a very disabled son who was 6 foot and she was under 5 foot. And she was our amazing tea lady at a school I worked in. And they took away the services. He had daycare centre that he went to every day. And they, you know, those services were taken away from her. You couldn't meet a nicer woman. And it's like, can we get those basics right?
I was going to say, it's about so supporting the vulnerable. As you said, Jesus talked about what have you done, and mentioned the sorts of people who we probably see on the fringes of society. An interesting thing, I think, is Sir Keir Starmer reiterated his, so far, the commitment the Labour government has got to the two, you know, as far as benefits go, to stopping it as means tested, but only 2 children, the 2 cap benefit. I'm just thinking, as a Catholic, would you say that Catholics really feel that?
I think Catholics feel all of the things that the rest of society feels. I think the cost of living crisis is massive for everybody. But I think for Catholics, or for Christians and probably people of all faith, there's always an eye to what's happening in the wider society, as well as just what's happening to me as the individual, and also what's happening internationally and how we're supporting communities abroad, and all of the ideas around fair trade and around exploitation. Some of the mobile phone parts we use, which are just ubiquitous, are being mined in places in like the Democratic Republic of Congo, where people are getting £1.38 a day. You know, those kind of big world issues, that as well, we have an eye to those issues. So it actually makes it's quite difficult, really. And I'm not saying one government put this all on Keir Starmer's shoulders. I'm not saying one government can sort this out.
And you feel, and obviously spirituality, as Jeremy said, when you look after those people who are vulnerable and they feel more part of society, they always have something to give as well. Thank you both for a brilliant faith panel. Let me just remind people who we've been talking to. Just been talking to Marie Fahy of Catholic Voices, and Rabbi Jeremy Lawrence, Jewish educator and faith consultant.